Part 3.
Part 3.
Part trace.
I'm here with the owner, Juan.
Thank you, JJ, for featuring us on your blog. As you said, my name is Juan. I'm the owner of WRXperts Auto Works here in West Park, Florida, where we specialize just in Subarus. We do from basic maintenance to full-blown builds. Feel free to check us out on our Instagram page at WRXperts Auto Works or our Facebook page.
Hey, welcome to Nippon Power. Don't forget to check us on our website at nipponpower.com for your performance, import performance needs. Give us a call, 305-805-1321, or stop by our shop.
All right, we're gonna go ahead and start assembly. So we got, you're supposed to do it with a screwdriver.
Tightening.
Or wasn't it a hammer that she was using?
No, it was a spanner wrench.
A spanner wrench. Black bolt goes on the back. Front one. Got the one on the back. There you go, man. Playing my motherfucking song.
That's my motherfucking song right there, boy.
My song, my jam. So we can go ahead. We're gonna move these harness out of the way. We can go ahead and start putting the power steering pump back in its position. Two long ones. I mean, you got two short ones and a long one. The long one is basically the one that goes towards the crank, closest to the crank on the front. So you want to set that one up first. It's basically going to be your guide. And then the second one is the one towards the back. This one, if you have small hands, this will be the perfect job for you. If you're someone like me, you're going to hate life.
Up in there.
He's Asian.
Nah, bro, my pee-pee little, not my hands.
And then last one, it's kind of hard to see, but it's right under the power steering pump. You stick your finger in and feed it out, and basically just rock it back and forth until you find the sweet spot. You got this one, and then you have the back one over here, and then the bottom one is right straight right there.
You can make some good rum and cokes.
Oh yeah? Alright, let's go.
Alright, so power steering's hooked up. We're gonna go ahead and just start hooking up cables here. We got the oil pressure switch. This, I believe, is the coolant temp. There it goes, coolant temp. We got the power steering signal. We have one evap solenoid over here. We got the top one over here. And then you have the breather hose, which this is the one that we need to fish through. It's gonna sit right here. Alright, we still need to alternate all that, but we can worry about that after, as we want to check make sure we don't have any leaks. Once we prime, go ahead and continue. We're gonna go ahead and start routing all the coil pack harness. Just gonna come down, and on the driver's side, it's pretty easy to tell what goes where. This is a 3-pin plug. This is the upper cam sensor. Plugged in, and then these are the coil pack plugs. It's pretty obvious. This is going to be cylinder 4 and cylinder 2. So we're going to route this
Based on the length?
pretty much. On the driver's side, the harness comes out through the back, so the shorter one is the closest to the cylinder 4 is the closest to the back. And then this one is going to be tricky. There we go. We got the back one in, front one. It in, and then you have this one here, which is basically the lower exhaust cam sensor, and ABCS. Let me just reroute this here.
So what does it do at least?
I don't know my Instagram. No. Basically that's what sends the ECU sends signal as far as adjusting the timing on the cam gear. And it's party time.
It's party time.
Basically it's a valve. It controls the oil pressure that goes into the actual cam sprocket. So it either advances or pulls depending on what range you're in and as far as the RPM and so forth. So right now we're just gonna go ahead and just route this down here, put it on the tab, and then once we lift up, we'll go ahead and just connect those from the bottom. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start setting up the ducting for the air pump. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start putting the air pump back on. So we're gonna place. That's good. All right, it's break time. You know? Cheers, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers, we're becoming famous. Actually, we're gonna bolt this one down. All right, we're gonna go ahead, bolt that down. Just don't forget, we need to connect the blue plug, which is the intake ABCS solenoid. This side, is I kind of tuck this, but it'll fit perfect. Plug that one up. We're gonna go ahead and mount the bracket first. Basically,
Why do you say basically so much?
because I'm basic like that. Small 10mm bolt. The 10mm bolt goes on the top right here. We'll go ahead and bolt this one up. So this is the bottom one. Go ahead and start routing the cables back to its position. Which basically, this is the rear coil pack, which is cylinder 3. Plugged in. Sits over here on this tab here. Just the back side. Goes. Then we have cylinder 1 coil pack. This is the cam sensor for the exhaust. For the passenger side, we're gonna route that down. Slide this coil pack plug in, then pop the top there, and then this is for the cable for the exhaust cam gear for the ABCS. It's routed downwards. We're just gonna plug that one back in, and TGV, since we deleted them, we're just gonna tuck it around here. Later on, when we do the flex fuel, we could have access to it and plug that one in. You notice that your rail is exposed now?
Sexy time.
I like sexy time. So now we're just gonna move this out of the way, start mocking and putting in the coolant return. Early in the video, we went ahead and we capped it. Well, we ended up just removing it, making it life easier, just taking the intake manifold off and putting it back on. So right now, since there's no more fuel rails, it'll be cake. Just put this hose back on, clamp it close to the bottom. And now we can go ahead and connect our coolant reservoir to it. So we're gonna go ahead and this is gonna be a swift move. Swift move.
What's up there? Look who it is.
So you're gonna put your thumb on it, line it up with the hose, and just try to do it as quickly as you can. Push it on there until it's nice and flush. Get your needle nose, slide the clamp back, and we can go ahead and bolt down the actual coolant reservoir. Semi-long 12mm bolts. Just gonna go ahead here. All right, we're gonna go ahead and start setting up the regulator, fuel pressure regulator. So same thing, these boss fittings, you wanna grease up the O-ring, start mocking up the fittings. Just a nice little tug, and that's it. Same thing again. And then last one. Alright, so just a quick description. You can set up the regulator whichever manner you want. You could either have the returns teed in and just use one port. I like to use both of them and basically return back into the firewall. So we're gonna go ahead and start mocking up and figuring out where we're gonna mount this regulator at. But for now, we're gonna go ahead and take out that plug and mount the Marshall gauge. Some people like to use the white Teflon because it's available. I like to use the yellow one, which is meant for gas. It's a little thicker. Doesn't deteriorate as quick as the white Teflon. Basically, you just want to mount it, turn it clockwise, just rip it off. It's pretty simple. Get the gauge, screw it in, just tighten it up. So you want it sitting, at least it's readable. Alright, basically we went ahead and modified the bracket for the regulator. We figured out the easiest position would be mounting it right here on the actual intake manifold. It's going to basically slip right here. It won't interfere with the intake manifold. You'll still be able to adjust and also be able to monitor the actual pressure as you adjust. Our idea basically is running a line from this rail all the way to this one here, which will run tucked under the harness, and then this one's gonna loop around, come under the intake manifold, and connect here. Now some people like to do parallel, make them evenly. Some people like to do them short on one end, long on the other. It really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, pressure is pressure. That's something I learned from Machines Gone Wild. Shout out to Don and Greg. Realistically, I'm just more OCD and I like to have it all nice and clean and organized. The benefit of this is basically if you decide to have to yank out the intake manifold again, everything the way I set it up is basically it's going to come out all in one piece, and you're not going to have to worry about unbolting or unscrewing some of the fittings off of the regulator just to be able to mount it. It's just going to basically quick release, and it all comes out together as one piece. We have our regulator already mocked up. We're going to go ahead and start off with setting up the return into the firewall. Slide that on, and it's locked in place, and then we'll do a little line management later. Now we're going to go ahead and set up the actual returns from the fuel rails onto the regulator. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start routing the hose from the passenger side. It's a little tricky. You want to route it right under the inlet. It's going to come up over the coolant cross pipe. Pull on it so we can figure out our length. Start the threads. Basically, we're going to go ahead and just present this fitting so we know where to route it, figure out the length, and then basically we're going to try to fish it under some of this, make my life easier. We'll just route it this way. All the lines set up already. We have the return going to the firewall. This one coming all the way down under the inlet, all the way to this side of the rail, the passenger side, back side of the rail. And on the driver's side, we have it 90-degree coming up, coming under here, under the intake manifold, and straight into the regulator. Right now, the way it's set up, if you had to yank out the manifold for whatever reason, the only thing you're gonna have to be able to disconnect is just this one and pop these two off. Alright, since we went ahead and deleted the actual stock fuel rails, part of the stock fuel rails is just a piping that goes to the evap solenoid. So we're just gonna go ahead and bypass it and just connect a regular vacuum hose under it. We're basically gonna fish it under along with the fuel rails so it's nice and clean and organized. So we routed it here. We're gonna go ahead and connect it to this hose. Just put a fitting on it. Snip it. Remove the excessive amount. And just connect it there. You don't have to worry about tie wrapping because there's not real any pressure going through it. So long that it's sealed, it's not going anywhere, it's fine. And it's gonna be tucked right there behind the alternator. Hose management here. I like to be fancy. So we're gonna separate each line. I just like to route these in a manner so it looks a little more cleaner and organized. Let's tighten up the center and then tighten up the outside. And now she's nice and separated. Alright, now that we're done with the fuel lines, organizing them, we're going to go ahead and just connect the vacuum line. In this scenario, we're just going to go ahead and use the side port. I'm going to go ahead and connect this piece of hose to the actual side port. Alright, and we're going to go ahead and just connect it to this one. Put a quick tie wrap on it. We're going to go ahead and start connecting in the back. That's for the primary pump. I believe this is a secondary pump here. This is just a bypass. Alright, we're going to go ahead and tuck TGV on this down. So we'll throw it to the side really quick. And then bring this one. This one's going to be tricky because since we took the spot where it goes, that one's there. And this one is tie wrapped. Tuck it down here. Connect knock sensor. This will sit like this and this will sit like here. We're going to go ahead and replace this throttle body gasket. Alright, we're going to go ahead and connect back the port for the PCV valve for the AOS. Put a tie wrap on that. We're going to go ahead and put the throttle body gasket back on. Line it up. Start off with the top two bolts. Should be able to start them by hand. Alright, we're going to go ahead and install the alternator. Snug fit. The long bolt. Make sure that the bracket's facing upward. This is for the cover. The backing plate, which has already a welded nut on it. You want to make sure it sits flush. Both legs go over the alternator. You don't want to tighten it. You just want to leave it flush so that the alternator could be adjusted. Alright, you're going to go ahead and get the other bolt. Makes it easy. You could always pull it up. Actually, this is backwards. There you go. Go ahead and tighten up by hand. That's it. For the OEM stretch belt, a little trick here. It's the guide. Sits right on the crank pulley. It's got a U-brace. You have to basically mock it up on one spot that holds it in place. Then you're going to get this bracket here and utilize these two holes. Before you tighten it, you're going to go ahead and set up the belt. You want to go around the alternator first. Let's just make sure the letters are facing the right way. And you're upside down. Wrap it around the AC pump. You're going to lock up your bolt in this position. You're going to line that up and then you're going to get yourself your 22 with a long extension wrench. Basically what you want to do is you want to catch the belt right on the plastic guide. As you start spinning, you'll stretch it and it'll fall in its position. There. We're going to go ahead and put the alternator belt back on. Slide it over crank pulley. And we're on the belts. Now the trick is don't go too ham on it. You want to feel the tension, so I like to basically turn it You can feel. You want it tight, not loose that it's gonna spin or break loose, but you want it that's gonna be some tension, but at the same time you don't want it that you could barely actually spin it. So right there we're good. We're gonna go ahead and lock the alternator in place and lock the hinge. The power, the plug for the alternator, and then as well as the nut, which again carefully, don't lose the lock washer. These don't use an impact on it, just do it by hand, because you can run the risk of actually snapping it. Alright, we're going to go ahead and start connecting the breather hoses. This sensor here, it's got to slide into this guy. Actually, goes the other way. And I'm going to pop this one back in. Easy peasy. And then you have the last breather hose, which is this one here that we have rigged up for the AOS. Goes right on the back side of the inlet. And that's it. Yeah, pretty much we're going to go ahead and bolt on back the main harness. Alright, we're going to go ahead and install Cobb EBCS. For starters, we're going to go ahead and unbolt this 10mm mounting plate. We're going to switch over to 12. I'll hook this out of the way. Get some room. Pop the breather hose off the clip. And let's unhook the EBCS. Alright. So I already started go ahead and disconnected the vacuum lines that'll go basically to the port on the turbo, the nipple on the turbo, as well as the nipple on the stock wastegate. So we'll go ahead, unbolt that 10mm. And your stock EBCS is out. We're going to go ahead and utilize this reducer. Put this to the side for now. We're going to remove this one as well, as we're going to reuse it. Alright, basically we're going to reuse this. Connect the nipple onto it. This is just for the vent for the actual EBCS. Now you're going to get your fancy Cobb EBCS. You're going to go ahead and mount it. The way it sits is basically inside the bracket. You have a small 10mm screw. It's just not going to go anywhere. So basically you have 3 nipples. You got 1, 2, and 3. Pretty much any EBCS is about the same. You have 3, which is the turbo, goes to the nipple on the turbo. You have 2 that goes to wastegate, and then you have 1 that goes to the actual inlet. So we're gonna go ahead and start plumbing the lines for that. For starters, I'm gonna go ahead and just start the nipple on the hose on the actual nipple for the turbo, just to get a general idea as far as lengthwise. Just plumb it into port number 3, which is the middle one on the top. Alright, next we're going to go ahead and plumb the hose, vacuum hose. It's kind of a little bit of a pain. You just got to have patience and fish it in there, right under the coolant line for the turbo, and right onto the actual nipple. Alright, we're going to go ahead and fish it in, and she is on. And again, a little bit of vacuum line maintenance. We're going to route this one along the line, the turbo one, basically route them right below, and this one's going to connect to this port here, which is number 2. So we're going to snip it, connect it, and then another tie wrap on those. The last piece, I utilize the stock one, use the reducer, small little end, and then fish it onto the EBCS when it's under, and That's it. Now we can go ahead and start bolting this up back together. But we're gonna go ahead and connect EBCS. We can tuck it down and then start locking up the bracket back into its position. Start with the 12, 10. And EBCS done. And we're gonna go ahead and start putting the intercooler back on, and we are officially done. All right, we're gonna go ahead and put the intercooler back on. You wanna get that 90-degree coupler onto the turbo. Just present it, and then my trick is basically put it on the throttle body, and then work it in. Sometimes she'll get caught in the bottom. What you want to use is a pick. Now once you pop it in, just wiggle it and she'll fall right in place. What you want to do is go ahead and just tighten up that 8mm clamp. I'll use a pry bar just to get it to slide in straight. You don't want to go too crazy because you will break the clamp. Now we have left is the bypass valve, two 12mm bolts. These carefully always start them by hand. You could run the risk of cross-threading the threads on the actual intercooler. Alright, intercooler bracket. I like to start it on this end first. Basically just connect back cam sensor, ABCS. Same thing on this side. Connect the cam sensor and the ABCS.
Once again guys, shout out to WRXperts for that detailed install. I know it was a long video, which is why I broke it up into 3 parts, but hopefully you guys found it helpful and learned a lot from it. I know I did. Also shout out to Nippon Power and Torque Solutions for the parts. Make sure to go ahead and check them out. Now that we have the upgraded fuel system, it's time to get tuned. I will be getting tuned by Mikey Body on the dyno, so make sure to hit that subscribe button to check out that video. That will be coming out soon. Now, if you happen to stay till the end of the video, I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Leave a comment down below that says more boost so I know that you stayed till the end. Well, once again guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks.